Hello and welcome back to the show and episode 607. And today I have my new friend Nina Meehan with me. And Nina is a creativity expert who inspires children and parents alike as an award-winning director, playwright, and producer, and a dedicated arts teacher educator with expertise in youth development. Her work focuses on nurturing innovation in children and connecting people in our increasingly digital world. Hi, Nina. It's great to have you here.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on a digital platform. It's lovely to chat.
I know, right? So I love your mission about connecting people and using creativity, helping families with the use of creativity, because I think that's such a hidden tool and a gem in the parents' toolbox that we often forget to use.
I love how you said that, the hidden tool. And what I see all the time is that parents have so much capacity for creativity when we remember that it's an option. And it's this very strange thing. There are so many things that we're keeping track of so many things as parents.
Mm.
And creativity is one of those things that actually makes all of the items on the list easier.
Yes,
But if we don't just pull it out of our back pocket, then we forget that it exists. So my mission
so
is
true.
basically to be, hey, parents, not only does creativity make the routine moments more fun and those hard moments a little bit easier, it also can just be something that's simple. It doesn't have to be hard and a 9-hour epic project where we remake the living room into a jungle. Like it's about small mini moments.
And I think that's a really good point. And I think that sometimes parents think resist, let me say, maybe bringing creativity or welcoming creativity into their lives and into their parenting because it's easy. Because I know I, at a time, kind of got locked into this very slim track, this thin track of thinking creativity. Oh, that means glitter and glue and paint everywhere and mess and taking hours out of my day. And I don't have time for this. And yes, my kids want to do it, but oh my goodness, I have to make it this whole event and it's exhausting. And we would do that kind of stuff. But I think what you're talking about with creativity is far beyond and far above and far below, far bigger and far smaller than that stereotypical vision of creativity, right?
Yes, and I think in today's era of like Instagram and Pinterest parenting, there's so much pressure, right? Because you go on these on your Instagram and you see these incredible projects, and the cakes, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And if you are a parent who can do that and it brings you joy and it brings your children joy, more
Go
power
for it.
to you. Go for it. But that is not all of us. Like, let's be clear.
No,
I'm
no,
a
no.
person who has worked as an artist my entire career, and I have never decorated a cake that looks like a shoebox. Like, it's just, it's not a thing in my world. And you're absolutely right. I love how you're talking about it's above and below, because that is a perfect description. Below, meaning it's about little moments. It's about, you know, in the morning as we're making breakfast, what happens if you make a smiley face with the jam and ask your child, hey, what's the name of this toast? Right? I mean, it's silly, it's fun, but it immediately brings that child into a creative mindset and a creative mode, and it puts you in a back and forth playful banter with your child. Mom, how can toast have a name? Well, I don't know, it's got a face, right? And then it's also that sort of above element in that it's something that can just be kind of like a constant hum in your life, right? It's there, and there are so many different modalities of creativity. And I think that's one of the things that for parents, it is easy to get locked into, oh, I need the glitter, I need the glue, but we all can sing. We all can make weird noises and robot noises. We can tell stories. We can play games. We can move our bodies and dance. There are so many different modalities. And a lot of times, parents, I mean, so many of us have cut ourselves off from that, right around that like age 10, 11, when you're in elementary school and there's this moment when, she can draw, right? Oh, she can sing, or he can dance. I saw him break dancing or whatever it was, and then all of a sudden there is those who can, and therefore we start to label ourselves as those who can't. But actually, creativity is a toolkit all of us have. It's just about exercising that muscle and finding where our comfort zone is. Like maybe your first instinct is, oh, I can draw. Like I feel comfortable with some visual art. And so you can start there and just baby step it towards other modalities.
That's a really good starting point, a really good suggestion for parents who might feel a little overwhelmed with the idea of how to bring creativity into their parenting. And it was interesting. I was talking with one of my clients last week after you and I talked about creativity, and she has young kids, preschoolers, early elementary schoolers, and she was saying how teeth brushing is a struggle.
Yes.
And I immediately said, "Oh, you need to listen to an upcoming podcast episode because it's going to speak to you directly." And so we did talk a little bit about how she and her child could make teeth brushing more fun. But she's not the only person who has talked about teeth brushing to me, lamented the struggle of teeth brushing. So can you share some of the things that you shared with me to help those listeners who might be struggling with something like teeth brushing?
Absolutely. And I mean, teeth brushing is just one of a list of, 400 things, right? Putting on shoes to go out of the house. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
that's a
right?
big one. Mealtime.
Mealtime, the bedtime routine, bath time. I mean, there's so many of them. And we all are struggling with the same things.
Yeah.
And it starts to feel like you're in these like mini battles all day long. So I just really feel that if we can find that spirit of play and allow that to bring us the creative spirit. So specifically toothbrushing. So there's like so many different things you can do around the world of toothbrushing. And this is a perfect example because it is a mini moment, right? You're brushing your teeth for like whatever, a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So, or, and realistically 45 seconds, like, let's be real. These are 4-year-olds, but so like things you can do. Singing a song is a great one, right? So, and you can use a song that already exists. You can there's podcasts that are like literally 2-minute podcasts just dedicated to brushing your teeth. Or you can find a song that you and your child really love. When my daughter, we use Shine Bright Like a Diamond.
Oh, nice.
Because we talked about her that we need to brush her teeth so they shine bright. And so we play that song and she knows that that's toothbrushing time. There's ways that you can have, dance parties, before and after. You can be using, silly rhymes. Like if you're a parent who can rhyme really easily, because some people's brains can do that, make it a time when, you tell a silly story or make a silly poem while the brushing teeth is happening. So there's all these different kinds of little mini adventures you can have, and it can be the same thing every night. I mean, that's the beauty of creativity, is that it's fun every time. We don't listen as adults, right? We listen to songs we like over and over again. So, if we're listening to Shine Bright Like a Diamond and doing our toothbrushing dance, like that can happen every single night until it's no longer fun. And then we find something else.
Right. And that's the thing. Keep doing it, but you don't have to keep doing it for all of eternity. Just do it until it's not fun anymore and then change.
Yeah,
We
we
don't have
can
to be
hold it
locked in.
lightly. Yes. And that's such a gift for parents. I think it's really, I mean, I know I find myself in this pattern all the time particularly when we get into those stressful times, that we start to hold parenting like it's like in our, like a fist, right? Oh, we have to do it this way. We try and really have that control. And I get it, right? Because we're stressed and we need things to happen, but the child isn't in your stress. The child is having their own experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if we try and parent through our lens, we're not talking the same language at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your child, they're programmed to talk play, they're programmed to talk imagination, they're programmed to talk games. That's literally how they're learning and how the brain is developing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're programmed to talk schedule, to talk to-dos, to
Yes.
talk health and safety, right? Like those are imagination, play, to-dos, schedule. Like these things are conflicting. So if we as parents can like have that moment where we stop and we remember to see the world through our child's eyes and what their priorities are, we can actually get our to-dos done in an easier way.
And I love that you mentioned having a spirit of play. I think it's very easy, especially for parents of young kids, especially for parents who have more than one young child. It's
Yes.
so easy to get caught up in the schedule, the structure, the to-do list, the time frame, and I meet so many parents who are struggling, stressed, unhappy. And when I find out more and we talk a little deeper about it, they're so serious. And they're, like you said, they're trying to meet their child who is playful and bouncy and in the moment and focus on whatever's in front of them, whether it's a little earthworm or a pile of blocks or whatever. They're just so in the moment, so joyful, so playful and lighthearted. And sometimes come at them with this heavy energy and this heavy, oh, it's got to be done. We don't have a lot of time. You have to hurry up. And so knowing that we have to hurry up because we have a limited amount of time, let's say with putting shoes on, we have to get out the door. So we tend to try to pull our child into our world, which is structure, routine, movement, and then we're saying, come on, put your shoes on. And then we might yell, and then we might punish, we might threaten, and we're unhappy. Our child feels the unhappiness. They don't want to stop the fun that they're having, but they have to get their shoes on. And it's such a miserable experience for everyone involved. And I love that you say it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing, I mean, I have 3 kids. So, thinking back to like when I went from 1 to 2, and particularly like when my oldest was about 5, and then my next one was 2. Right. So you've got the 5-year-old who has their own ideas at this point,
Yes.
right? They're finding that independence. They're really committed to the thing. He was a kid who loved nothing more than putting cars down ramps, and cars down ramps
Yes.
was a priority, right? And then you have
Serious
this
priority.
toddler. Oh, very serious priority. And my toddler, he's a climber. I mean, now he's older and he's a competitive gymnast, so no surprise, right? But
Nice.
yeah, so like I had to have an eye on him at all times, because by the time he was 18 months old, he already knew how to climb up to the top bunk, and panic, right, mom, oh, right. So I that balance of like 5-year-old engagement, 2-year-old safety, got to get out of the house, school is starting, and you have these 3 different incredibly intense needs, and they're all needs. So in those moments, particularly when you're balancing 2 or 3 or 4, finding your inner spirit of play can open the door to making that moment, instead of coming at it from tension, if we come at it kind of underneath from play and just bounce it along, right? So, hey, there's no reason we can't bring one of your small cars and a small ramp into the car with us. Or, hey, your little brother would love to see how you put on those sneakers. I bet he would love to know which is your favorite color. What color sneakers do you want? Little things like that can just engage them in a different way or make it a game. Oh my gosh, if we can get to the car in 26 seconds, I bet we can sing a song. We can, whatever it is that's going to get exciting for your child. All of those things are so much more fun. I mean, right? Then get your shoes on. But like, we've all been there. We've all been in the get your shoes on moment. And I hope we can find, as particularly as we're coming out of this really crazy parenting time. Because like the last year has been, to say it's been intense doesn't even start to describe how hard parenting has been. And I really hope that as we're coming out of that parents can give themselves the space to stop, take the deep breath, remember the play, find the fun in themselves, because we stop having fun, right? We become parents and we just stop. And yet, when we were 7, we played all the time. And honestly, when we were 22, we played all the time. The play looked different. And I know there's all the parenting books and there's all of these things are so important. Like I really feel strongly, find what works for you, but find the books that make sense to you and get the professional advice 100%. And then add on top of that the fact that you and your child can really honestly play, imagine, create all day long, and you are doing parenting, you know?
And doing it in a much more fun way.
Yes. For both you and your child. I think that was, you were talking about that, how the child doesn't want to get yelled at either. Like that's
Right.
no fun for them. And they
No.
don't understand why. They don't understand. They didn't do anything wrong. They're just, they're putting cars down ramps and suddenly mom comes at them with a pair of shoes.
Right. And I was thinking about it as you were saying it, about how we used to play when we were kids, and then once we become parents, we don't play anymore. And so a thought crossed my mind as you were talking. Why do we get so serious when we become parents? And the answers that came to me while I was thinking about it was, well, suddenly we're responsible for a life other than in addition to our own. So that's a huge responsibility. And then when it's just us, we're also used to, we have to be at this place at 9 a.m. Okay, we get there at 8:57. We plan out our day. We know how much time it takes to get a shower, get dressed, eat our breakfast, put our shoes on, whatever. And boom, 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 it takes 37 minutes and we know it and we do it every day and it's fine and we're out the door. And then we just kind of do our lives. But then when we have a child, we're not only responsible for them, but they're throwing this whole added layer of uncertainty or unpredictability. Now we can't just say, well, it takes me 37 minutes to do my morning stuff and then I'll be on time every time. And that's accounting for 5 extra minutes for traffic and whatever, whatever. Well, now we have to account who knows how much for the unpredictability of our child, the unpredictable nature of how long is it going to take to help them disconnect from the car track to put the shoes on? How long is it going to take them to actually physically put their shoes on? We can put them on, but now we've entered a new phase where our child wants to put their own shoes on, which is important to let them do. But how much time do we have to factor into our day and back up and add and like it's so understandable why parents get so bogged down and so serious about parents when they're parents, because there's so many unpredictable things that come along with being a child.
And, as you're talking, the thing that keeps coming up for me is that with that responsibility comes a lot of fear. And that fear makes
Yes.
sense. It's
Yes.
scary. And every day that your child develops, because they change every day, particularly in those, first 6 to 8 years, it's like you wake up every day to a new child. And so it feels, you kind of have, you feel like you have to control, and that fear leads us to that place where we're like, oh well, if I can control this, then I can handle the fact that I have to be constantly changing. And then there's this other part of it that we as a society have labeled play as frivolous.
Mm. Two very
And
good
I
points.
Right. And I think this is, we are so serious as a society, right? We all are putting in these crazy 60-hour, 80-hour work weeks. And we're working, we want efficiency and all of these things. And those are wonderful things if that's, for the industries that need them, great. But when it comes to parenting and it comes to our daily lives, play is not frivolous.
Mm-mm.
Play gives you the life energy to
Mhm.
create. And that's creativity in the sense that I'm talking about, like singing and dancing and making up stories. And it's also just that concept of create as a whole. Play gives you the energy that when you have had the battle over the shoes, and then you show up at the office and you're expected to come up with an idea for a marketing presentation, right? You still need to have space in yourself and your body and your brain to do that. And play gives us that space, but we have labeled it as childish, as
Mhm.
unimportant, all of these things. It kind of keeps getting bonked down to the bottom. And I think that's where you're talking about, like, we get this big responsibility of these children, and our fear kicks in
Mhm.
100% legitimately.
Mhm.
And so we respond to the fear by saying, okay, I'm going to control, I'm going to control, I'm going to control. But if
And the
we
last
actually,
person you can control is your child. The
it's
very
your
last.
child.
They will not have it.
That's so true. That's so true. And if we, instead of that control, 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 can say, okay, whew, I feel the fear. I get it. I'm scared. This makes sense. I'm gonna lean into play and just try it on and see how it feels. I mean, it can open up so many doors during your time with your kids, and for those who work outside the home, time outside, or for those who are exclusively in the home, to give yourself that space to say, hey, actually, I need to take some time for my own play right now, which we don't do at all. I mean, right? Like that's unheard of. The idea that we can actually say it's okay to give myself the time to do something that feels like play for me.
And doing that, while it's very hard, and I think societally we are discouraged from that, and especially as moms,
100%.
put everybody else before you, which is a constant message I'm trying to smash apart because it's so backwards. You should put yourself at the top of the
Yep.
list so that you can be the person you want to show up as in all these aspects of your life. But um, yes, I think that we do tend to put our own play, whatever that looks like, off the list or in the on the back burner, right? I like to paint, I like to crochet, I like to garden, whatever. And then we say, I'll do that later when the kids are older. So maybe we disconnect from what is fun for us for what are we going to do? 20 years? We're going to spend 20 years of our lives, or 15, 20 years not doing what brings us joy because we're raising our kids? How much resentment, whether we're aware of it or not, how much resentment are we building in ourselves because basically we let our kids take away what's fun in our lives? That's not a good way to go.
And if we're not having fun in our own lives, how are we possibly going to have the space and bandwidth to have fun with our kids? I mean, I'll be the first to admit what I'm talking about around this idea of sort of having this constant hum of creativity as part of your daily existence. It does take energy. It absolutely does. The what I am aware of though is that that energy, there's a trade-off, right? It's allowing us to get away from the negative energy, right? Those fights and those battles, they take energy too. It's just a different kind of energy. So I totally agree. Fueling yourself, putting yourself first, knowing that you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of of your children. And it's a message that is so hard to hear right now in our society. It's just, we are told over and over again, put everybody else first. And it's through all sorts of messaging, you know, yes, our media, and but also, you know, social media, and you know how we're, you know, all of the different factors we're told that we the must do's of parenting and all of that controlling part. Well, that all feels like, oh well, then I must not be important. It's all about my kid. Well, actually, you're not going to be able to do any of that stuff if you're not fueling yourself in your own heart. And that is it's hard to get there. It's really hard. And I think you have to start with baby steps. I think it goes back to that mini moments thing. You're not going to suddenly go from not playing at all to, you know, 3 hours a week of an amazing watercolor studio. But you can go from not playing at all to, I'm going to take 5 minutes at night to just teach myself a new skill with my watercolors and watch a YouTube video and see how I can make a lake more shimmery. Or I would love to be going to yoga, you know, at a studio for 5 hours a week. Like that would be amazing. But I'm not there yet, but I can do 5 minutes of bedtime yoga at night. And maybe I do 5 minutes of bedtime yoga with my kid, right? Like during lockdown, I did cosmic kids yoga with Meadow, my 5-year-old, like almost every night, because it was a
Mm.
way to just calm myself down. I needed it. And she watched me doing that and said, Mommy, can I do this with you? And we found something that we could do together. And we would, you know, we would turn off the lights and light a candle. And it was just 5 minutes. That's it, right? And I know in the world of parenting, when you've got a 5-year-old, 5 minutes does feel like forever, but it's there. It really is. If you can find the space to prioritize.
That's a really beautiful story. And I have this very pretty, lovely, relaxing image of you and her just kind of in this candlelit room, and it's quiet, and oh, that feels really good to envision that.
Well, and to be clear, like we would do our cat cows, and you know, we would meow and moo and meow. Like
Okay. So
it
more
was
fun
zen
added
while
in.
also
Yeah.
because that's, you know,
It
that's what
has to
she
be.
needed also.
Yeah.
But exactly, but I was laughing and I was smiling. And
Hmm.
as soon as you laugh and smile, you know, all of the brain chemistry that allows for you to find that joy is released. And I think so, even if it, you know, I was looking for maybe something zen and ended up mooing, you know, mooing right before bed is pretty fun
Yeah.
actually. And it was, and I still got what I needed, which was moving my body.
Right. That's really beautiful. And to go back to what you said about how creativity takes energy, but it's a trade-off. And you're putting, if you choose to put energy, or if you're aware that you can put energy into approaching something creatively versus demanding and uh, nagging and cajoling and yelling and all that stuff, reminding, it's a trade-off. The creativity takes energy, but you're taking the all that negative energy away. So I don't think it's really overall going to add energy that it's going to cost you, and it might even take less energy. But the other really beautiful thing is all of those negative interactions are not just taking energy from you as the parent in the moment. They're disconnecting you from your child. They're leaving debris all over your child when you yell and threaten and punish and nag and scold, and you're so angry and frustrated and resentful and annoyed. You're just dropping debris all over them that they can't now wash off of them.
Absolutely. And you're dropping debris on yourself. I mean,
Hmm.
how often have we had a moment where, you know, we do lose our temper or we get frustrated, and then, you know, you do the school drop off and I don't, I just, you feel like crap.
You feel
You're like,
awful.
I would, and you're just, going through it in your head. Oh man, I wish I could do it differently. And like, that's normal. It's natural. It's human. But if there's a way that we can, I love that word debris, that sort of, that just, I'm seeing sort of just like images of like soot and,
Mm-hmm.
dirt, and it's just like sticking in your hair. And,
Mm-hmm.
um, whereas the energy for creativity, what that, at first the barrier to entry is just getting there, right, and
Mm-hmm.
trying it out and making it a habit, right, in this. But once it's there, it actually is going to be a building block to fueling energy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
just to use my yoga example of meowing and mooing, right? So when I first was like, I mean, during those first lockdown months, right? I don't know about you, but like it was rough. My family was like, what's happening?
And
And
scary too.
totally scary.
Everybody was scared.
And, the energy, even to be like, I just need to do 5 minutes of yoga, that was hard. It was hard to get there. But once we were there, it it actually built my energy. It built my reserves. It gave me more space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, the creativity thing, the yelling is in the moment, right? The yelling, we don't have to ramp ourselves up for yelling. We just do it. We respond in that moment. We're reactive and we go. Creativity does take the energy to kind of go like up the
Mm-hmm.
on up the roller coaster ramp, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then once you get to that point where it becomes natural and fun, woo, you're just going, and it is fun, and everybody is on the car with you, and that's the gem.
And the memories that you're creating with your child are not going to be memories of, my mom always yelled at me about putting my shoes on. My mom always told me to hurry up brushing my teeth. My mom was always in a foul mood. It's not going to be those memories. It's going to be, my mom and I used to meow and moo before bedtime. Whether she remembers the connection to yoga, the reason, or whatever, she's going to have that memory of mooing before she crawled into her bed. What a cool thing that she gets to remember.
Yeah, it reminds me of a story from my own childhood. And I think, as parents, the more that we can go back to our own childhood and connect to those moments of joy, those moments of creativity, the small ones, the big ones. When I was 4.5, my dad went on sabbatical. So we were living abroad, and I was going to a school where no one spoke English. And I came
Oof.
home I was really little. It was an incredible experience, right? But it's scary. And I came home the first day, and it was really hard because I really didn't exactly understand, why they couldn't talk to me and what, all that.
Yeah.
And my dad looked at me and he said, I think you need some Inkleberry. I was like, what what's Inkleberry? And he made, it was strawberries mixed with plain yogurt and brown sugar. Now I know this now as an adult, but at that time, my dad's, Inkleberry, it's gonna make you, it's gonna really help. So he makes this snack, and I eat this, and I have memories to this day of my dad saying, Inkleberry. And this was when I was 4 years old. This was a 3.5 minute moment of my childhood, right? There are months and months of my childhood I don't remember, but that
Very
moment,
cool.
it's stuck. And I think that's exactly what you're saying, is that these are the things that become those building blocks of positive memory and positive tradition that can really help your family unit, particularly as your child gets older and the kind of interaction you're doing changes, the kind of tension changes. You have this common vocabulary and common language around silly, around play, around imagination, around games.
What a great story. I love that. Inkleberry. I'll have to remember that. It reminds
Yes,
me,
next time you're feeling stressed, try some Inkleberry.
it's going to be sure to lighten the load, right? Because
Always.
who can't use a little Inkleberry in their lives?
I mean, daily, right?
Right. It reminds me of when my oldest son was young. I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. I don't remember. He went through a very short phase where he was afraid of the monsters under the bed or in the closet. Very common
Mhm.
childhood fear. And somebody gave me this idea. I don't even know who blessed me with it, but I made Monster Juice. And so I took a Febreze bottle and that was almost empty, and I emptied it out and I put water in it, but it still had the remnant smell of Febreze. So it smelled pleasant, but it was just water. And I crossed out the Febreze and I wrote in big black marker Monster Juice. And the day that I made it at that bedtime night, he was kind of already starting to think about, oh, monsters. I'm not sure. I don't want to go to bed. And I said, I got you the perfect solution. And he was just like, what? What do you mean? We're going to get rid of the monsters tonight. And he was like, how are we going to do that? And I say, voila. And he was just in awe that there's this bottle of Monster Juice. And so I let him spray it anywhere he wanted to, under the bed, in the closet, behind the dresser, wherever he wanted to give a little squirt just to keep the monsters away. And then boom, he was asleep like that. No more fear. And he used it for probably a couple weeks until he felt like he had thoroughly rid his room of monsters and there was no more to be nervous about because they weren't coming back. And then that was that. But it certainly was a lot more fun and a lot easier than, come on, there's no monsters under your bed. Crawl under your bed and look. Do you see any monsters? Open your closet door. Are there any monsters in there? No monsters. Now it's time to go to bed. Like, how many parents have had that conversation, that exhausting conversation where you're trying to use logic to settle a child's fear, but it's not really based in logic, so you can't approach it with logic.
I
Sometimes
love that
you just need some
story.
Monster Juice.
Sometimes you really do need some monster juice, and you're seeing the world through his imaginative reality and
Mm.
embracing his imaginative reality. So you're entering his story because his story is real to him. And I think this is one of that logic thing, right? As parents, we're programmed to be like, it's not really
Come on.
real. Like,
Yeah,
you're
let's
just
be
scared of
real.
the dark, right? Right. Yeah. But it is real.
Oh, it's
In that
so
moment, it is
real
so real.
and
And
vivid.
by you jumping into his story, mom's like a superhero in that moment, right?
Oh my
Because mom's the
gosh.
one's like, here's the monster juice. And
Let
it's
me
like,
pull it from under my
what?
cape. Yeah.
Yeah. And it also puts, and it's something that I think is so interesting about creativity and why I just think it has so many different aspects of positivity, is what you've done is you've put the solution in your child's hands. He is
Yes.
in charge. He's the
It can
one who
spray that
has
stuff anywhere.
anywhere. Exactly. And that is, I think, such a critical thing to figure out. How and when can we give our children agency over their own stories? Because they spend all day at the whim of everybody else. Do this, do that. It's time to go here. Eat this, don't eat that, right? Don't do this. Don't hit your younger brother, whatever it is, like all of these things. So any moment we can say, hey, not only do I have the monster juice, but you get to choose where to spray it. That's huge for
So much
kids.
control, so much empowerment.
Yeah, I love that.
Monster Juice and Inkleberry. I mean, if you have those two, that's a 1-2 combination. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Oh, and don't forget to moo before bed, meow and mew. So we're, but it sounds silly, and here we are laughing about it, but that laughter is why it works. And like,
Exactly.
this is where like our very serious adult brains end up with this problem of, well, if we're laughing, it obviously isn't important.
Right.
No, it is. That's the solution.
Right.
There it is.
That's such a good point. I absolutely love this. I have really loved this conversation that you and I have had, and I really hope we've sparked some interesting ideas for our children and for the parents who are listening. and my dog wants to go out, but you're going to have to wait. So I hope that we've given parents some really good ideas and that they're going to be excited to bring creativity into their parenting. Come on, into their world and into their relationship with their kids, because it's going to make life so much more fun. I mean, just so much more fun. So before we wrap up here, Nina, where can people find you or connect with you or learn from you?
They can find me on Instagram at creative parenting, no E, so CREATIV parenting. They can also find me online at creativeparenting.net. Or if all else fails, you can always find me at ninameehan.com. If you just look up my name, I'll show up.
Awesome. So if anyone has any questions about bringing creativity into their parenting, please reach out to Nina. If you have any questions about anything we haven't covered, you can also send me an email and I'll make sure that Nina and I get back to you and address your questions. So I'm going to wrap up here quickly because my dog needs to go out. That wraps up today's episode. Wherever you are in this world, I hope that you make it a very creative day for yourself.